Today FM. It all happens here.
You're welcome back. Nathan Murphy with you this evening. Simon Harris made some headlines yesterday. He said it was utterly offensive for Irish banks to be complete and utter laggards when it comes to passing on interest rate increases to savers. They've been called for a windfall tax on the banks, especially considering the enormous profits they've been making. Over €1 billion for Bank of Ireland, €854 for AIB in the first 6 months of the year. Currently, the government takes in money from the banks through the bank levy that has been in place since 2014. It brought in around €87 million last year. I'm joined on the line by John O'Connell, the General Secretary of the Financial Services Union. John, does the levy go far enough considering the profits the banks are making?
I suppose when the government came out and issued a public consultation on the Banking Levy a few months ago, we put a submission in and we looked at it and said that there was 3 things that needed to happen with the levy. One, it needed to continue. Bank levies are commonplace in Europe. A lot of them stem from the market issues that were around 2008, 2010, and we all know the cost of that. So it should continue. So we argued it should continue. It should be expanded. So it was contributing about to 150 million to the Exchequer, and with the departure of KBC and Ulster Bank, that went down to 87 million. So we think it should be expanded into the neobanks and the other financial companies that are operating in the market. Some of these have claimed to have 2 million customers, and therefore, and not, a lot of jobs in Ireland created as a result of that. And therefore, we think it's reasonable for government to look to expand the banking levy to those entities in terms of contributing. And the third thing we argued was around ring fencing, that up to now, that 87 million that you mentioned just goes into the general exchequer funds, and the public don't see anything tangible in terms of a benefit out of that.
So where would you like to see it go?
We'd strongly argue, and argued in our paper, that there's 2 things that need to happen. One is around the issue of digital literacy and expanding all our knowledge in terms of our managing our finances and financial literacy. And the second thing we would argue is the protection of the services that people have, where I go to get advice, the bricks and mortar, protecting the branch network into the future. And that this is where I think people would really appreciate the levy being directed. So for us in the FSU, we think, having talked to communities across the country, that they would welcome the continuation of the levy, but particularly the targeting spending of a levy through a ring fence fund.
When you look at the profits of the banks for the first 6 months of this year, they can surely afford both, that they can afford to support that levy, and if you want that ring fenced, well and good, but also, how can it be acceptable that they are being so slow to pass on the increases in interest rates to savers?
Yeah, and I think that's the function of the regulator in the market. The regulator is supposed to ensure, and on the website of the central bank, protecting consumers is at the heart of the central bank's work. So that extends to deposit rates and so forth. So the central bank should act. The regulator in the UK has acted and put a 14-point plan to the banks, part of which is the responsibility of the regulator and part which is the responsibility of the firms, and asked them to act on that straight away. So we believe it's the regulator's role to step in terms of ensuring fairness in the market, particularly where we have restricted competition in Ireland.
Should they go further? We've seen countries such as Italy and France impose massive windfall taxes to punish the banks for not rewarding savers. Should we be looking at something like that here?
I think it's a different approach that we need. I look and see what happened in Italy, and we also saw what happened with Credit Suisse and SVP Bank in the US. We don't need that volatility in the Irish market. And I don't think that the direction of travel is a windfall tax. I think the levy is there and it should be sufficient to achieve the goals of government in relation to that. But I really believe that the regulator needs to step up to the plate and engage with the financial institutions and ensure the financial institutions are engaging with consumers and advise them what the best products are. And challenging the banks in terms of when interest rates move, that there's a timely move in terms of deposit rates in relation to that as well, that it isn't way behind the move in the interest rates in the ECB.
The Finance Minister, Michael McGrath, has indicated that the levy is likely to be extended as part of this year's budget. Have you received any indication about your submission as to whether they will potentially ring-fence the money that comes through?
Well, we welcome the Minister's contribution at the weekend, where he confirmed that the levy would continue. We believe a longer horizon than a year should be part of it. We should be talking about maybe up to 5 years of a horizon in relation to it. We welcome the fact that it's going to be extended and look forward to seeing what the Minister's proposals are in that regard. But he must go that final step in relation to the ring fencing of the funds. It's all at nothing if the population of Ireland and the customers of the bank don't see an output in relation to it. And the Minister knows from the surveys that were done under the banking review by his department that people value the network, and they value the advice they get from the people working on the network. And, qualified professionals giving sound advice to people. And so that is our argument. So we're, I suppose, encouraging the Minister to go that final step in terms of the ring fencing of the funds. He's already indicated that he is supporting the financial literacy piece in terms of he's launched a paper on that. So we think it'd be a really good initiative to couple that with the banking levy and the branch network.
All right, we got to leave it there. John O'Connell, thank you very much. It is sport all the way through till 7.